I would say good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this maiden edition of our conversations that we're having within our communities. Of course, I would say the Gambian community. We are going to go through some salient points, some good topics to discuss here. I would want us, maybe we start with a brief introduction of ourselves. Okay, my name is Pamo Dufal. I work with Mujatu/FMB. I am a Gambian who first lived in Belgium and then moved into the UK. Going along the topic of discussion here and the heading, integrating Nottingham's new and emerging communities, I think I fit that position very well because I just moved into Nottingham about a year ago. So, like I said, I work with Mujatu Foundation/FMB. I am also a student going, attending NTU, Nottingham Trent University, doing my undergrad on media and international relations.
Hello, my name is Mariama Barry, Ignore Jeng, and I work in with Idle Care Homes as an admin assistant for the past 1 year or so. I recently, I won't say recent, I've moved to Nottingham about 2 years ago. I was living in London, working with Manor House Development Trust, the same role again, admin assistant. And yeah, I live here with my family.
All right, my name is Abdullah Ija. I'm living in Nottingham. We have the family from the Gambian community. Also I work with Mujatu. I also run my own business.
Hi, my name is Fatu Sawo. As you rightly said, I'm a mental health nurse. I currently work with drug and alcohol service, but my background as well is forensic mental health services as well. So I've been a nurse since 2014. So I'm 6 years plus in nursing career in England. I am a Gambian. I'm a mother and I'm a wife.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Idrissa Toure, and I'm the lead coordinator for TEX, Tailored Education and Community Consulting Services, under which auspices we're holding this community conversation. And of course, the community conversation is sponsored by Nottingham Equal, and we're grateful for Tani's role. And professionally, I work as an education practitioner, but I'm also a community volunteer for the Gambian community in Nottinghamshire. I'm a family man as well. And I've been living in Nottingham for a considerable number of years now. Yeah, about 15 plus now.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, good evening, guys. My name is Abdullah Jeng, living in Nottingham. I'm self-employed, running a security company, quite a micro company, quite small, but that's what I do, working for myself.
This conversation, like it is said, is mainly sponsored by Nottingham Equal. And we want to acknowledge the kind of work they do within the community and in trying to bridge that gap that exists between the communities that are here, that were here before, that are coming to join in, and that have already familiarized themselves within Nottingham here. Like I said, the first one was is discuss effects of COVID-19 on local communities. And the local community here specifically is our Gambian community that we want to put emphasis on and
That's
see
right.
how these effects impact on us positively, negatively. The other one is how to address needs in local communities. Of course, there are a lot of needs within the local community. The prime among the needs here is this kind of connection we are doing in a form of a conversation, bringing us together, people of different backgrounds, people of different expertise, to impact on the community here in their small hubs that they live, impact on the people within their vicinities, and create that kind of change. That's one important factor that we have to put into consideration here, in my view, because it creates that connection between us and amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
The other one is come up with a possible solution, or come up with possible solutions and identifying next steps together. Like I said, just put all heads together, look for what we think are the possible solutions and try to pinpoint them, prioritize them, and come up with a conclusion.
Yes, like you rightly stated, that is really the basis why we're here. And as you said, the conversation theme today is COVID-19 and its effects on our local communities. It is quite a salient, very, very important topic at this point in time for us to start as a community to start talking about COVID and its impact on us. But just before we start, as the facilitator, I will take you through some house rules for the conversation today. Because obviously it is understandable, COVID has hit very close to so many people and so many homes, and it has ravaged communities. So as a result, we are aware it could be an emotionally charged discussion for some people because of certain factors, and we are aware of that. And also, we will make sure everybody gets the opportunity to say your opinion on. So the first question I've got here is COVID-19 pandemic, a conspiracy theory or reality? What are our perspectives on this?
This is a very wide topic of discussion, and I think in the mainstream media, this is what is happening right now. Like you said, also, I just want to reiterate your point. This is a very humanly charged topic. So we have to apply some kind of humane approach in it, and we need to also try to console ourselves sometimes when our emotions start running high, because these are really tough times. Conspiracy or reality?
Personally, I'm really convinced that this is something that's existing. I know somebody who's been affected, and I've seen what it can do to people, even healthy people. And the worrying thing is, it's something that's quite, you can't even judge the thing. It affects you in different ways, or humans in different ways. You cannot know what the effect will be if you catch it. I know most people will be unconvinced because they've never seen anyone affected. It's only if you're working in the hospitals and they tell you someone's affected. I've seen others say it's just a flu, making it so irrelevant. But I think that's quite a dangerous thing. It's better to prevent oneself than to be cured for something that you don't believe. But that said, I think the community at large is really doing well by abiding to the rules set by the government, by the local authorities. Just to say a big thank you to charities like the ones you guys work for, yourself, Abdullah. They've fed us during these trying times. I'm one of the people that benefit, from the help they're giving. And, that's something we can't put a value to at this moment. They wouldn't say this one's entitled or not entitled. All they will do is, okay, he needs help or she, let's go on and help them. It definitely comes from somewhere, so I would say a big thank you to those charities. To be honest, I would say it's a reality. So all we have to do is come together. And these questions you guys have designed is exactly what we need to ask ourselves, how much we can help, how we can come together to minimize the effect it will have on our people. Because if you read the news and all the medias, it's telling you we're the most affected, the ethnic minority, black males, the poor people. That's all us, And I would say it's just to try and prevent it than to try and put ourselves in trouble by trying to deny that it exists in the first place.
So, Mr. Young, your points are very valid. Honestly, they're very valid, and I cannot definitely agree anymore, because you gave yourself as an example of the reality of COVID, like having you've seen somebody who's got it.
I have someone quite close,
someone very close, and then the impact it has and all those things is like us. You're saying you're benefiting from that food bank because of COVID, for example. So for you, it's not a conspiracy, it's a reality.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Fatu Sao, what is your view, Fatu, of the conspiracy thing or the reality?
Well, professionally, I would say it's a reality. It exists and it's affecting so many people's life. It has affected so many people. People die of it. The complications of COVID could be many, many reasons. You know, it could be your physical health, it could be your mental health, it could be your, like, let's say it could affect your sports system and all that, you know. So it really affects you in a very wide range of issues. And I might be biased in my answers because I might lean towards how it affects you mentally, because which is, as you know, it's my specialty, but I will try and make it general as well. So affecting our community, for example, I would pick on something like loneliness, because we come from a community where people interact. All we do is like interacting and mixing together. For example, we have naming ceremonies that we go in. You never know who is depressed at that moment in time, but meeting other people from different areas make you feel like have that psychological relief in you, you know. And for another thing, we could say meeting up at mosque and for prayer time, that's also been cut off, which can increase loneliness in people's household, because people living alone, hardly we have that. What we do have to recognize that there are people that are living alone, people that have no family. They rely on these support networks that we have as a community. So I'll stop as that for now and give others the chance to talk.
Fatu just mentioned, she mentioned loneliness. She mentioned the religious congregation, the social congregation that we do have. Of course, I'm not going to say you are biased, but I'm going to say you are spot on, because the impact of COVID on the mental health of people is something that we will rely on you to give us a very good thesis, because loneliness affects us in different ways. Depends on who you are, depends on your strength in thinking, depends on how you react to things. The religious congregation is another issue within the Gambian context. I'll just give you one example. The last time I took Uber I live in the Meadows, from the Meadows to Snenton, just to go and attend the Friday prayers. Came at the door and saw somebody say, "Oh, there's no Friday prayers today because of the lockdown." I felt down instantly, because I was looking forward to having that moment. And that definitely put me down, and it affected me almost the whole day. Now I will go to Mariam. Mariam is going to give us her opinion as well on the issue of conspiracy or reality. Mariam, what is your view?
Yeah, I believe it's reality as well, professionally and mentally as well. Just like Fatu said earlier, she mentioned about mental health. Yeah, I'm not working with mental health patients, but I'm working with, obviously, residents in care homes, and obviously with dementia, which is part of mental health as well. I've seen people who have it, lots of people, because I have the opportunity to take swab for tests, for COVID tests weekly. And initially, when we started, we've been having negatives all the way through for the first 6 months of lockdown. But recently, we are having positives. And this has now changed a lot in the care home. It's affecting staff. Some of them are being affected mentally by anxiety, depression, stress, and all of that, just because of the fear of coronavirus. So I believe it's reality, because why would they just, come up with coronavirus for no reason, and it's affecting the whole economy and everything? So definitely reality.
I cannot disagree with what has been stated already, and I think we've got people who work close up with affected people. We've got people who've known people who are affected, and I think personally, I think numbers don't lie. We all see the statistics globally, and I think, irrespective of what one believes, I think it is reality. We can all see it every day around us. I think I'll agree with the I'll go with the consensus on this. it is a reality. I think that is a good starting point for us to understand it isn't a conspiracy theory. It is a reality.
Thank you, Edie. Mr. Ja, Abdullah?
For me, like I said to you, initially I had doubts about it, okay? But down the line, looking at the numbers of deaths across the world, so in the end, I said to myself, is really because they cannot also, put this thing, looking at the statistics of the deaths in everywhere, especially in Africa, all over Asia, and it comes about that. So I thought it was a reality there. But where it started, there was a big question mark around the line, and everything, yeah. So if it was happening and there's no, then we could have some questions, we would debate about it. Personally, I was saying to myself, but I've known people who have been, but the question was to have died due to this COVID, and then I suffered for it. But I was wondering whether all those deaths were related to COVID. But the escalation of the death, it makes me think twice. I say, yeah, there's some reality, it's happening, yeah. And it has great impact, especially like Fatima said, the loneliness is which a great impact, towards in relating to mental health. It's a big issue now affecting the community at the minute, and how we think about overcoming those kind of things, at the minute. Because being alone, feeling lonely is not something I personally and other people, we know, especially in our background where we come from, Africa, Gambia, and all places like that, So these are kind of we are born to be a social life and everything mixing together and gathering. And one of the things it killed, the government trying to control people based on that. The more we gather, the more we control this data. So it's like this, just like, goes in there. And there are rumors going is airborne and all those things, But like I said, I think it's something really by looking at the numbers from here. And that's affected businesses, affected lives, affected so many things, So even in here, a lot of people are not used to be indoors all day. So but they have to go by the safe method, government guidelines to avoid to prevent, So that's my opinion. I think, yeah.
So if I get you, you were in doubt, but not in disbelief.
Yeah, initially I was just doubt about whether is this something conspiracy, about trying to control government, all those controlling community, controlling people, But the ways did that were correct. I know that real. Down the line, I know it's real. I never believed it before. So down the line, I know it was real by looking at the cases happening, how the cases were escalating, and And secondly, by coming approach of the new lockdown and all those things, I think this have been really, reality by the number of the cases, how the death is escalating, America and everywhere,
I think everyone we have here do believe that it is a reality. Do we have a consensus?
That's right.
Maybe we open our mic, everybody. We just make it a general one. For me, from day one, I held the belief from day one that it is real. There is no conspiracy in it, because from another point of view, I think going back 100 years ago, going back to history, because history repeats itself. Going back to history, when there was the Spanish flu, of about 50 million people died, when the world was not so much industrialized as today, not so advanced as today, and susceptibility also not been there like today. So I just cannot disagree, with the experts, the people who've got the knowledge, who've spent years into research, coming up and saying, this is real. I think for me, I had no audacity just to say it is not real. I just believed it from the onset.
The next question is, how is the impact of COVID-19 being felt in our community at the moment? How are we feeling the impact in our community? For example, those of us who are coming from the business and we've got small business owners amongst ourselves, how has this affected you economically? How are we experiencing job losses within the community? Now we know our center is shut at the moment. How are we coping to keep up paying for that? Because that is one thing. If you do not meet here, we do not make any donations. How do we sustain our facilities as a community? And for parents, for example, when there was a lockdown, students need to stay at home. How has that affected you as your ability as a parent. Often we are the ones doing the frontline jobs. So I think Mr. Jeng alluded to the fact that BAME, we suffer the most. That's partly responsible because we have to get out to work, and that we've got our children at home. We are not able to do as most people of higher social status were able to do because they were all mainly working from home. They can stay at home and spend some time with their children and educate them and support them. We were not able to do that because we have to leave and go to work. That meant our children are they're falling back. The attainment gap is widening even further in the schools. And so these are all factors that are affecting our community, but how are we feeling it? How do we think as a discussion group, we are feeling the impact of COVID in our community?
I would want to challenge everyone here that the impact is vast. But I was thinking, if we look at how it impacts on us socially, economically, culturally, and religiously, because you just mentioned social. Fatu did mention social also some time ago. Also the cultural side. Our culture is when we have our naming ceremonies, we put on our big grambubas, go with the biggest tom-toms and enjoy ourselves and go back home. But I think since late February to now, there has not been any common conventional way of doing our cultural activities. Religious, I just gave an example on the religious one. And for the religious side, we can just extend it to different angles. The economic side, we all know how it is impacting on us economically because our incomes have gone down, most of us. Hours have been reduced, some have been rendered redundant. So many impacts towards the economic side.
Assessing how it's affected us could be divided into our needs. What do we need? The food that we eat, the income that we make from employment, and that is the most hardly hit with this COVID. If you go to my type of business, Abdullah's type of business, you can probably get work from out there, but the problem is the uncertainty. They can offer you a job to go and cover their sites, but there's nothing to guarantee you that they will be paying your money at the end of a specific job. So those are risks that we normally run away from. So it's really affecting us as well. Like Edie said as well, our children having to stay at home would prevent the parents from working. They will have to stay at home as well with the children, especially people who've got both parents having to stay at home. You'll be paid, but not the whole. You've seen the news. They're only paying some parts of your wages, which is probably 80%. So we're definitely impacted. I would say with the religious thing, it's not just about going to pray, which is why we go to the mosques. No, we engage with each other, discuss our problems with each other. Now that we've outlined the effects of COVID on us, maybe the next thing to do is to try and find a solution if we can, and which is one of the reasons why we're here today.
Like I said, the impact is, I think, on this is here. The COVID pandemic has led to a drastic, like I said, as I said at the beginning, drastic human loss, human life worldwide, and unprecedented and unprecedented challenge in the public, especially in public health, food system, and the worldwide. Maybe all know. Yeah, for example, the economy and this social disruption has caused the pandemic diversity of tens of millions of people falling into extreme poverty. You can know. If you can bear with me, estimated in nearly so many millions, I can tell, I would say the numbers. So millions of enterprises, for example, facing existential threats, nearly 3.5 million global workforce are at risk of losing their livelihood. Even not only jobs, but their even livelihoods, in the case, I'm sorry for using that law, but, these are the kind of things. If you're struggling as a breadwinner in your family to bring ends meet, And, this Western world is fine. You can get support, but look at places like Africa and other places like, if you're a breadwinner and this affected, your job, where would you get support? And these African communities, they don't have those sufficient funds to, unless they politicize it, a bag of rice, and at the end of the day. And think about it, this has been since June, May, it's nearly a year now. It was like 8 months, some families are really. So these are the kind of things, And during this lockdown, it has some families are really almost the income less, less food, the nutrition, people are trying to economize what they had. So those days before, you can have if you're working, the kind of nutrition ability you can go to extra mile for your family is less. So in terms of the food, nutrition within the family, everybody's careful of their spending in other ways because of COVID, something like that. Those are the things. The travel, like the social free movement, whereby some people is okay, like travel movely, but the restrictions have been done, socially supported, especially traders who go so estimate their business based on traveling, like from one end to another end, especially in Africa, things like that. So they are known traders whereby their business is based on trading. So all those people, these are the kind of. So the impact, you can go on something like, But these are the main things I think really impacted in the social life and everything. Like you guys mentioned, the mosque is closed and all the social gathering buildings, our usual traditional gathering and all these things, I can go on something like for all these things.
The impact of coronavirus, we can't say it all tonight, but just briefly, I would just like to, talk about a few things and more details on parenting and family, because I'm a mother and I know what I have been facing during the COVID-19 as a single mother. It has affected our social life, obviously. We mentioned about how our Gambian community used to look forward to Ramadan dinners in the weekends, and obviously the korite, the fun, the socializing, all of that for the korite. And obviously we've been trying to have a nice party for the korite or Tomaskian. All of this couldn't happen.
Your network is breaking, Maria.
The Gambian community, we always look forward to the Ramadan dinner in the weekend. Obviously the korite, the Tobaski, and all of these didn't happen this year. So that's just a few to say about socializing. Parents working at home have been affected in a way, even though Ili has mentioned about, obviously, professionals who can work at home, but they still have been affected in a way that there was too much pressure working at home with kids around. Because when it all began, some of the early years provisions has been stopped. So there was strain on mothers, parents, particularly working fathers. Also, some other increased opportunities to bond with young children was a good one as well. And working parents found it very hard to work at home because obviously there's kids coming around, just like what happened to me earlier. You had that when Jara came asking questions. And some of the managers were not supporting, they couldn't understand. So obviously, especially if you have a manager who doesn't have kids around, they can't understand no matter how much you explain. But I'd just like to talk more about parenting and family because this is what I can say much about. And I have spoken to few families as colleagues and as mates as well. We've got difficulties going out with our children because of the restriction imposed during the lockdown. And parents also have wanted to go out with going to the parks. I mean, obviously regular activities that you have scheduled for your child weekly can't happen anymore. We can't go swimming, we can't go to the park, and it's hard to explain to a child that you can't use a park that is open. So they couldn't understand all of these things. And it was quite a big pressure for us. Also, we single parents have to face the worry on our own. You have to do your work. People like me, I have to go to work because I'm a key worker. Even though we have been provided to, the schools were open for us to take our children to school, but still we were not comfortable taking our kids to school when the fear of coronavirus was very high at the point. Personally, I decided to leave my kids at home. I was lucky to have older ones to help me and support, but not everybody was as lucky as I was. So some of us do not have partners, so we have to do the schoolwork, and at the same time, we have to go to work. So it was quite a big pressure for us. So this is one of the impacts that has affected parenting at home. Although there was also a big positive where most fathers never have the time to be bonding with their kids. So this was a good time when fathers had the time to have that closeness with their kids, and they're quite happy with it, I believe. In care homes, we do not have much some of the care homes do not have much coronavirus positive, but we have lots of problems with dementia patients. For the fact that Father mentioned that earlier, loneliness. We are only care workers. We're not their families. So the dementia patients need to see their loved ones and has to get involved in activities to make them move on, which is quite helpful for their mental health. So this was all lacking. I've seen residents who has moved into the home, whereby when they moved in, the dementia state level was quite low, but now it has worsened because they have not seen their loved ones. They can't go out of the home. They've been locked down like prisoners, so even visits has to be limited. You have garden visits, window visits, but it wasn't working well for us, for them. So all of these, were quite big impacts on care homes. And shopping, which I love too much, was a straightforward activity. But now most of us have a fear of going out just because you're scared to catch the virus, or you think you'll be wasting your time joining a long queue.
Yeah, I do relate to Mariam's point because I'm in a similar situation as well. I'm a key worker, having to juggle work and childcare and having to juggle school. Like, I do take my kids to school anyway. I minimize it to 2 days a week because that's the only way I could cope. Being a nurse, coming home, trying to sleep on a night shift, you have kids around. It wasn't easy at all. So I have to break it down, like to minimize it, not every day wise, 5 days a week, but I have to do it 2 days a week. At least the kids also have somewhere to go. And coming to that, in Mariam's case, she might not realize it, but she might be having depression or anxiety around that as well. Because you as a parent, you need to have a break. Break doesn't mean that going to work. And if you find yourself in a situation where work is only where you have a break, that's a problem. So the best thing, like she was saying, she might not realize it, but she was juggling too many things at a time. And if that has to continue any further than this, she might reach a breaking point where she might also realize it. It might turn around her not even neglecting herself. And this can lead to depression, anxiety, and progress to other mental, and even affect the kids' progress as well. Because as a parent, you can't deliver if you're not right in your mental state. Like, for example, schoolworks that they gave us. I would say, I'll put my hands up. I was lurking behind, to a point that I was saying to my kids, listen, sometimes you got Google there. That's where it is. That's why it is there for. You need to Google some of these things. You cannot be constantly on my neck. Let's do this, let's do that. That. And tying up with the financial security as well, like these other guy was saying, financially, it's like the worries about not knowing whether you're going to get a job is also an issue. Even if you do, whether you're going to get a paid job, and what's the next job in line, and will this tie a balance between your family life and having to go to job, get a job? If the time doesn't suit you, that's another worry that you have. Oh my God, I've got a job out there, but I can't leave my kids. Whereas when COVID wasn't around, you have school hours. You can specifically say, oh, there are term time contracts out there. As a parent, you can have a term time contract where you can work, let's say 9 to 5, you still have childcare within that time. But with COVID, you cannot make all that plans. And this has really affected people's financial ability to make things, plan ahead. And planning ahead is also good for your mental health as well, because it will alleviate some of the anxieties you have, not having to think about what's coming next, sitting on that edge, causing insomnia, like lack of sleep. I could go on and on to say, I know another key point I'll just throw in, which I know is, we might think is not a problem in our community. But all these could tally in and just hit you. You might feel suicidal. You don't want to be here anymore. You're like, I don't want to be in this world. I don't want to live like this. I could end this now. And even that studying with statistics, as of June, this year, 1 in 10 people, there's irrelevant of which religions do you come from. People think they need to end their life, saying that this world, they have nothing to look forward to, and which is really, really difficult to, as a community, we used to come together. We used to see each other quite regularly. You could speak to someone about this. Sometimes phone call alone is not enough. People's contact is important.
Yeah.
All this, it's lacking. It has really impacted us on our life. And as a minority group, it's really like, it hits us harder because there's few of us out there. And those few, when they're dispersed, it's not easy.
I'm just trying to make the connection here. Mariam mentioned something very important, and that is a single parent. But specifically, when I say single parent here, I'm talking on the side of the women folk.
Yeah.
From your professional point of view, I know most of our sisters have been affected as single parents as a result of direct consequences of coronavirus vis-a-vis lockdown.
Yeah, I'm a single parent as well. I would proudly say that anyway, because I'm married, but I don't live with my husband. He lives in the Gambia, I live here. So we both live our separate lives, I would say. So me having the kids here, having 2 kids here on my own, even though I get support, doesn't mean that the parenting bit is fulfilled, because you have to have 2 parents in kids' life. I have to do all that myself. So it's not been easy at all. Like, that's what I was telling Marianne, because we need that break. We do need that break from kids. So if you're not having that, the only place you're having it is work. That is a problem, because you're not breaking. You are also using your brain. So that really impacts on your parenting skills.
Yes, thank you very much, Pa. I think, like you said, we are doing very, very well, and we're going at a very, very good pace. And I think there is a wealth of knowledge and experience in the panel here, which is a good thing for the conversation. And I think it is always fine for professionals to go back to your corner and start it from there. So I would, as an educationist, and also working in a school that is in a deprived area of the city, which is mainly where we live because of the socioeconomic status, mainly our communities are in, we are disadvantaged. Then our children are even going further. They're falling back even further because of COVID. Like everybody alluded to, we have to go to work because we are mainly key workers. And then if you've got children at home, you have to have some sort of a plan to make sure they stay at home. And that would mean, like Yam mentioned, the schools remain open for the key worker children. But often we have to arrange something at home to make sure the children stay home, because people are not very, very comfortable with sending their children to work, because to be fair, you don't really know. Children are children, they can never stay away from each other. So you really don't know whether the children will bring the virus back from those settings back home. So most parents don't send their children to school. They have to find a way of doing it. And that brings back to what Fatao is saying. You don't get a break. You come back from work, you still have to deal with the children, and you go to work again, you come back, the children are there. So that respite was completely absent. But for the children, mentally, it was even to support them, as one of the, as Fatou just mentioned. But there is also another issue, the efficacy levels amongst us. How confident are we really to support our own children in, even there at the primary school level? We felt like, oh, I can't really do your work. So you've got to find a way of doing it. So the support level is not at home because we are tired. We can't. And then sometimes for some people, it is the actual ability level of parents to support the children. Consequently, the children are there with very, very limited support. And there are households where they don't even have internet facility, which probably should be, everybody will consider that as a very, very basic thing, but it isn't. There is poverty. And then when we don't earn much, we've got to prioritize what is most important. And in that, the Wi-Fi probably doesn't come on top of the priority list. So there were issues that we as a community, we are grappling with. And our children end up suffering. And when they return to school, you realize some of them have retrogressed. They've gone backwards in their education. So the gaps were there between them and children from affluent background, but that gap has widened now. So there is a challenge. How do we help our children, push them forward to make sure they're able to get to the required level they're supposed to be, in addition to what the schools are doing, because the schools have what they call the catch-up schemes. We, for example, when the schools finish now, we need to stay on to try and support some children, an additional 1 hour we've got to teach. But that has to be complementary to what is happening at homes. Our children are falling back, and if we thinking of social mobility, it has to happen through our children. So our community is suffering because our future, who are our children, are actually being affected by COVID, and their education is hampered. So that would be.
I definitely feel obliged to ask you this question, Idi, as an educationist. What do you think parents who are not literate in English are going through in helping their kids?
I think it is a huge psychological battle for the parents, and also a very, very difficult moment for the children to be experiencing as well. Now, the gap between those children and those who are in homes where parents are perhaps literate and they have time for them, because there is one thing, you can still be literate and then you cannot provide that time, even though you want to. But you've got to do 12, 14-hour shifts. By the time you get home, you're completely knackered. You cannot, or the children, it's time for them to go to bed. So those are some of the social challenges and economic challenges we face. But for some parents there's so many of them who are really keen because they haven't got the required proficiency level in the language, for example. There are adjustment challenges they are grappling with themselves by moving into a new country. So it's quite difficult for them to really integrate into the society. And then there's a lockdown. They cannot go to school. They cannot see the teachers. They cannot they cannot go to community centers and meet with people who could help them translate, even read their letters for them. The education of their children doesn't become a priority anymore. There are other priorities that takes precedence over that. Yeah. So these are some of the issues we're facing as a community. And then our community and all new communities and emerging communities are going through this because of the COVID.
COVID has brought the importance of scale of preference here, because most parents would put whatever they have right now into that scale. And the higher the importance, the more, how can I say, the more attention or focus you put on the scale. You talk about the poverty, relative poverty, absolute poverty, situational poverty. These are things. The issue of relative and absolute poverty have been there for a long time, but this situational poverty has struck this society so hard that by the time you could have a reflection of what is going to happen tomorrow or next tomorrow, it breaks you down, like Fatou said. It could lead to concepts that will start, creating some kind of antennas in your head, committing suicide, running away from people, the loneliness, and I think these are situations that affect the community. And it is very good. I'm very much grateful that this panel we have is a very good panel, and everything that everyone has said here is very, very important and pivotal to what we have today as the impact of COVID-19 on our communities. Specifically, Idi, you mentioned new and emerging communities that came from non-English speaking countries to a English speaking country. And these are things that we have to improve upon as as community leaders, as community champions, as role models within the community in helping them get those problems solved.
So it is the way forward as a community. What sort of solution, what sort of communal solution, and perhaps local or central government solution do we think we need as a community to address some of the issues or the challenges we face? We've mentioned, and I can because I'm taking notes, so I can really remind the discussion about some of those things we've highlighted, and then what we think are some of the solutions we need. And obviously, we've mentioned it's quite a long list. So let me start from the top. So we've acknowledged it has created a psychological effect for individuals and our community life. It has led to a loss of income, and it has posed some challenges for small business owners amongst ourselves who are not entirely sure of contracts or whether they will get paid if they take on contracts. So it has also created some deprivation of spiritual and psychological therapy that individuals will receive, for example, when they go to masjids on a Friday and then they will meet and discuss few things. Parental challenges that we face due to the lockdown and all the things that are associated with lockdown with children. And then the role of balancing key worker role and parenting tasks and the burden that has created in our homes, anxiety levels due to loneliness, and also particularly for the elderly in the care homes and those who have got relatives in the care homes as well. They're not very common within our community, but yes, so, yeah. And then low self-efficacy level amongst parents' inability to support in terms of their own ability, but the lack of time to support the education of their children and the impact of that on the children's education, the widening of the learning gap, our children falling behind in schools. And also the mental health issues that people are battling against because of what is happening. Like I mentioned, situation of poverty, driving people into those thinkings. What is my life worth it? How could I solve this? What is the remedy? Perhaps my life is worth nothing, low self-esteem and things like that. So these are some of the issues we've mentioned. Perhaps if I miss anything out, I could be reminded, I can include that in. But now our next task is to try and think of solutions now.
Looking for a solution is it has different facets, and these are for me. I would think we localize the situation first, put it into nationalize it, and then globalize it. So the localization I would want to say is how we can help each other within our communities to reduce the impact psychologically, socially, religiously, even economic. Even if I earn a bit more and Edie is my neighbor and I know, oh, maybe Edie is, even if Edie didn't tell me, but I will know that it is tough times. If I have a little more, I can just go to the shop and buy some meat, some fruits, some vegetables, and bring it to Edie just to help him out. Maybe if I help Edie out at that point in time, Edie may have 1 or 2 pounds that he can buy milk and give it to the next neighbor. This is just I'm trying to create this line of connection that we can have a soft debate here. But the localizing point of view here, I think is very important. How we can look for solutions locally here. And I will start with Mariam because mostly you said you want to go. Maybe these 3 points, the localizing of the solution, nationalizing, and then globalizing the solution.
Okay, it's good that in Nottingham, the Gambians, we have the Gambian community, whatever it is called. And I do understand, it might correct me if I'm wrong, you have something you call something arm, whereby people, you've been doing fundraisings and, whereby when somebody happens to pass away, you can use that funding to send the body back home and all of those things. These are very good ideas. And this sort of, sorry, are you hearing me?
Yeah. I was just reiterating your point, saying the social arm. That's the social part.
Yeah, the social arm, exactly. The social arm. It didn't happen this year, but it could have still gone, even though we couldn't have the fundraising. Donations could have been just raised, and then the food bank that Lai is doing as well is quite a huge help to our community. I'm not sure whether all Gambians have access to it, but it was helping. I have benefited from it. And I'm sure, because I do get some stuff which I can't use, but I have passed to my neighbor or friends who might need them. Stuff because I can't afford or I can afford to shop for myself doesn't mean that I can't be on it. I have got it, I have helped myself from it, and I have helped others from it. So these sort of things, can just carry on, and also do more research within us Gambians, because we're talking about our community, Gambian community. Do more research. What is happening? I know, we have this concept of sutura and all of that, secretive and all of those things. But at the end of the day, when you get to that level, you will not think about suturama and all of those things. So people like Lai, we have that much trust in him, whereby when he approaches people, people can trust him and tell them about what is going on in their homes. So those sort of things could help with these kind of situations, because we have people that can't get support from the government. You all know about that. Some people are here, they are illegal in this country, so obviously they have no fund to public funds. They can't help from the government, and they have suffered a lot during this pandemic. So do we reach to those sort of people? Do we know who they are? Do we know where they live? Can we just, stretch our arms and give them the help we need? So this is the first step we should first, think about. Research within ourselves who we are, just invite more people to come around. Obviously, there are some people that doesn't want, there's some Gambians who doesn't want to get involved with Gambians. Those people are excluded. We can't force them to join us. But those who are willing and obviously helpless, we can invite them, and this sort of food banks and all of these things can help. Also, what we was doing, the whole meeting was a good one. It wasn't only what Hull was doing, what we were trying to do for the whole project, but also coming together as Gambians was a good thing. I bet all of you look forward to that every Tuesday night. I'm so about it. We eat together, we drink together, we chat, we have fun. That was so helpful for the loneliness that we feel from home and everything. And I believe every one of you will agree on to that.
Very well.
Just a quick one, because I want to go now. My head is pounding and all of that. I just want to leave.
Before you go, I think this is just a relaxed one. Just a relaxed one. Don't take it that crazy. Just a relaxed one, and a relaxed in the sense that you have a very good partner to work with here, because you've got a mental health professional who can also help in different ways. Because Fatu is there. They say dance at home before you dance abroad. We've got someone us here who we can use her professionalism, her expertise, her experience in that one-to-one chat.
Yeah.
Have with people. And what would be your your suggestion there, that what Fatu could do to the community that can help?
Fatu has made very important points earlier about depression. I'm not a specialist on that, but I do know a few things, like when you are depressed or when you were stressed, you can't say you are. You think you are strong, you're fighting it and everything, but it is eating you up deep down. You might not notice it, but it's happening. It's like, I call it a silent killer, because it's eating you up, it's affecting you, but you wouldn't notice it. So like you're saying, that one-to-one can be created. If our community are willing, when people are being affected, let them come out. Not everybody is as open as me or Fatu or anybody else. Some people keep things to themselves, but you can't blame them. I think they're doing it out of ignorance. It's just the mentality we have as Gambians. But if we have one like Fatu who can, I think this is something we can create within the whole project, whereby if we have people like that, where they can have a one-to-one meeting, and obviously data protection, FAT will obviously have to keep that. It should be private and confidential. So obviously we can trust her, and we have things like.
That's why I call her a professional.
Yeah. So obviously this is something what we can just think about, and then Pamodi, we have quite a lot of lists to do, and this can be added on our list, and invite people, let Gambians start to know about us, the whole group, and then we can explain to them that we have all of these facilities, and if they need them, they are invited to have access to it.
Coming into that, like she mentioned about depression, which I would tie in with anxiety as well, because you might be anxious, not knowing, what's happening next, and depression, you might not even recognize it. Like she said, it's eating you down. You don't recognize it. It's only when people see you or when you interact with people, they will understand. But in this case, like with the COVID circumstances, you don't have that. Like I mentioned earlier on, people contact is important, which our community is going to lack at this moment in time. And that's nationwide, everyone, no one is interacting. And even though you create family bubbles or support bubbles, they call it, it's not enough. Yeah, I would take that. So tying into that, I think the solutions coming into that is like signposting people. Hey, in terms of mental health, you could signpost people where they can get support and help, where they can speak to people, or if they feel down, they can speak to someone else out there next to, you can speak to someone over the phone, you can arrange meeting, although social distances guidelines should be observed when things like that is happening. Likewise, there are so many places that is closed now already because of this COVID. Yeah. We have they used to have day services where people can vent out, where people can talk about issues they have, mental health issues, support service where you go and speak to someone, a mental health professional. This person will signpost you to this person saying, well, I know someone who's, professional in this therapy. You can have this therapy, you can have counseling, which is all out there. But currently, all that is done through phones, which is like some people are not comfortable in speaking to people through phone. You have to have that personal contact and to speak to people and to get some probing question out of someone. They have to have that, eye contact, trust in you for them to, give you that information. So that's another thing that
you want to challenge. Just interject here. Do you want to challenge? I know it's a very important part of life today, and that is the virtual world. Do you want to challenge that the virtual world is not enough for that kind of relationship that we have amongst ourselves?
Yeah, it isn't at the moment in time. So that's why it's really affecting our community.
Especially the fact that it's a new thing altogether for us.
Yeah,
we've never been used to it.
Okay. So many people are not afraid with the setup.
No.
Mm-hmm. So the emotional part of it as well is really a vast area. If I want to explore that, we won't go anywhere. But I would just say, emotionally, it's a lot of things that will contribute to your emotions. Even tying in, trying to get support out there. If you are not emotionally balanced, you can't do that. So you'll be down, you'll be, not even wanting to get out of bed in the first place. You cannot even deliver like basic daily tasks because you are emotionally drained.
Yeah.
So all this, we need support around that, having to talk to people, having to create this network out there, how people will get in touch. Like, I don't know much about your whole group, but it sounds as a good idea where we can have a starting point saying, listen, we've got a group of people here. This is what we do. But if you want to have support, we have this thing out here. We can signpost you to somewhere where you can get support. Because we are not all going to be expert in everything, but at least we know where the doors that we have to knock onto to get those informations out. I will not go much into welfare information because Ja might know welfare more than I know. The benefit system is out there, you know, and this food bank system is also out there where you can go in financially if you're not having anything like hungry, you don't have much to eat, or you have a little money that food might not even be your priority in that sense. Health-wise, it can also affect you. Malnutrition will set in there at that point. Yeah. People will not be able to get what they need. So I would say, all in all, tying in finances as a community, this will help us a lot and it will go a long way. Another thing, training people about how to prevent change. sorry, I might be overboring you, like the solutions coming down to training as well.
Yeah, training. Can you come on to training again, because your network was fluctuating there. Coming back to training very well.
Training, like the basic things about training people, how to break the chain of COVID-19 transmission. How, I know that information's out there, it's in the news, but sometimes it's better to interact with people that you are close to. You might be watching the news, like I said, you will just be staring at it, not knowing that information, breaking it down to someone, to your, like in your own language, like someone speaking to you in your own language that you understand. Because we have so many people in our community who are not very eloquent in English, as in listening to it from a screen or that, or reading it from online pieces. So the best thing, if we have someone who is there to translate that, to say, listen, this is what's, you know, the chain entails. This is what you do to break down this transmission chain. That, in that sense, to prevent the spread of it in our own community as well is important. So that's another solution, training people how they could break the chain of this COVID-19 thing.
Wow, honestly, you're really good, Fatu. I must acknowledge that. And I thank you so much for being part of this team, because you have taught me a lot. I have learned a lot from what you've been saying, especially the training point of the dissemination of information, which I work in the information area. I work in media, and I understand exactly what you're saying. The way the information is conceived and the way it is perceived are the two different parts. If that couldn't be broken down to the person's level of understanding, you're just going to storm that person with information. And if that information doesn't dissect very well into that person's horizons of understanding, it's useless.
All right, Fatu, before you, okay, Fatu, I think, to be honest, I can say if you look at the text messages, I've typed the meaning of HALT, Health Organization for Life. Can you see it? Yeah?
Yeah. New organization set up in the meaning of Health Organization for Life.
Okay. So this was set up by the team of the team is here, including Edie, Mariam, and Mama, who's supposed to join us particularly. I think they hijacked the whole team to part of the conversation. You're the only person, I think, in Hull. And we have 2 Asians working with us here. Okay, they all live in Nottingham. But part of the whole movement was set out to help, it's a health promotion as well. It's set up like that. Working in here, in the UK, and mainly in Gambia. Like 50-50 or 40-40. So okay, we're trying to develop the organization in by health problems. We know about the problems in Gambia. It comes to health, service, and everything. So down the line, we developed the model for the past, I could say 6 months, if I'm right, yeah. So we submit and develop it and everything. We came with a name. Hull, Hull means heart in all of everything. We break it down in that, you know what I mean? So partly building it up and everything, developing websites, and it's in progress anyway. The plan was to launch it this year, end of this month, but it couldn't due to COVID. But hopefully next week, launch it here, launch it in Gambia. So it's all developing. And based on the situation, I think we need nurses like yours, say expertise. And part of the thing we're looking at also locally here, loneliness and isolation is another area. People like you could come on board and support. You know what I mean? I know everybody's busy, family being single, like you say. I would say you're a single man because Sarah comes very often, you know? So I don't buy the idea. You're not single mom. Anyway, so that's okay. But anyway, aside, but this is something, you know what I mean? As long as we're thinking of developing some meeting in the long run, the COVID, you know, sometimes we'll have some Zoom meeting and develop the idea, develop the model properly. But partly also looking at other things. And one, isolation, and all this BME community cohesion, and partly what we do in the community, but written in terms of health. But it's now shaping in a way, we develop the model in a way, it's linked to health, agriculture, and education here, okay? Mainly in Gambia as well, particularly, at the end of the day. So, like I said, the team is here. I'm more happy to welcome you on board if they are all right with it, but down the line. So to know, you will know more about it, and they will all talk through about it. But that's basically about it. But I think it's about time Gambia also, we in the diaspora need to develop something that will reflect in the Gambia. We're doing things here for ourselves here, but people all over the country, like political situation, and think about how we enter help the people on the ground in terms of an organization. But mainly it's going to be like NGO, that's the plan. But we're building the model and basically, yeah. So you want to happy to, to come on, I won't say fully on board, but I know you're busy, but to look at, even some projects we are doing, if you think about this in your area, especially isolation and those things, I think we may need it on that part,
Yeah,
That's fine.
fine.
Anybody want to throw anything there? Whole
Yes,
team?
Abdullah, I wanted you to reiterate the point of that loneliness you spoke about.
Yes.
I know the concept of whole is very wide, and from you, I will give Abdullah Jeng to deliberate on it. But for you yourself, Abdullah, I want you to elaborate on the point of loneliness, how loneliness relates with whole to the point of engaging people physically, psychologically, help them towards education, help them towards meeting with nature, sort of. And if you just give us a cap on that, and then I'll come to Abdullah Jeng to give us more detail into what whole does, connecting it with the society, the Gambian community or the Gambian society that we
okay, the way we look at it, whole, okay, in general, we are from the Gambian community mainly, I think. But whole is looking at in the terms of Nottingham, tackling loneliness in part of Nottingham, in the BM community, BME community, especially this is called now BM BAM. So the Black minority, ethnic minority, something like the BAM community. So we're looking at that aspect, tapping that, whereby we go to link and collaborate with the plans. This is yet to be developed in the group, but with this research we're doing, there's big market, big niche opportunity for our organization tap in the area. From my experience working in the BME community, in the African community in the city, I'm tapping on those, looking like Majority and other communities in the city, but mainly Gambians also on board to look at the school, like the community cohesion. We normally do events like events in the park, events in the like all the social community parks in a lunch and sale for kids and things like that. That's a way of tackling loneliness to overcome that in the community. By like people like NHS, for example, we could plan to serve as a medium, like a contact person for the NHS through the community here. The community they cannot reach because this is a community that they find the CCG. For you might know the CCG, clinical commissioning. These are all trainers.
I know.
So,
yeah.
So these are the connections we're trying to tap in. Not yet as of now, but we are developing ourselves, all the policies in place to be more structured here before we approach those people. Because you got to, even Gambia, we develop everything now before we replicate the information. But the model in Gambia may be slightly different from what we could know. So it's like 50-50 or 40-60. That's the plan. But partly initially was purely Gambia. But we think about we can develop this, get the funding here, and we can also do activities in Nottingham. You can Nottingham around the area. Deprived community, how to bring people, for example, bringing people to the park, picnic to the park, yoga in the park, even dancing. Like Jody, we mentioned one of the luncheon we were told to do, Jerusalem, bringing families and kids to the Jerusalem dancing and other activities like sport, multi-sports and things like that, it depends on that. So these are the kind of things we're thinking about overcome loneliness, bringing families, walk in the park, So for example, one day we had this guy also, he's one of the person who's booking. Think about we can ask families to come over, they fly little picking in the community, like settle we do in Gambia. Nobody done anything now. We could do settle, introduced by the former president, for example. These are kind of things we could do, cleaning Hyacinth Green, meadows, other places and things like that, you know what I mean? So in that case, you're bringing people out of the community, they will meet, and at the end of the day.
Say that Hyacinth Green and meadows are the dirtiest meat of the city.
Yeah, I'm just giving an example.
Okay. Moving on, sorry.
Where do you live? Where do you live?
I live in Mapoli.
Okay, you see, that's a post area. So compared to Hyacinth Green, you know what I mean? So Mapoli might not know the settle over there. So we can things like that in the area, you know what I mean? But anybody can be initiative like in the group, we can say to them this day. But to get people out there, at the end of the day, we all meet somewhere, have a cup of tea, have a laugh, and disperse. You know, these are the kind of things. It's not something to be creative and the present. Those are the kind of things about Hull. But in line the line, the model can be shaped. You can come an idea. I say this whole group, you understand it. I got an idea or training the families. You know, like for example, you can train people, help families about how to reach the people, how to get them out of the house and things like that. You know, and line thing and all these things. You know. So that's basically, I think, the overview about the model still being developed and everything like that. Yeah. But anything I've missed or anything, or is that?
No, you spoke very well, Abdullah.
Yeah, so just to get the picture of what Hull is about.
Yes, you spoke very well. You spoke very well, Abdullah. You spoke very well. Thank you for that. I'll go to Mr. Jeng. Mr. Jeng, you just
yes,
had you just had the conversation, and I just wanted you to chip in with an analysis of.
I think it will be important for Fatu to be here when we're doing it, so we can wait. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
yeah, we can talk about something else. Yeah.
I just put something on the chat here. And
I've seen it, yes.
In my view, we need more community participation in finding solutions based on our socio-cultural interactions.
Yes.
And socio-cultural interaction to me here is how we can involve each other, how we can break that gap, that barrier of like in our local language, ki ganla or man ganla, I'm a stranger here, or I've not been here for a long time.
Yeah.
These people were here before, so they have to take the lead, which I am a victim of, because I think I have been laying back a lot, not trying to or not participating that much in the socio-cultural aspects of the community, which I think the little things that I know or that I understand from another country's point of view, for example, like I said before, I lived in Belgium before, trying to incorporate it here, replicate it here, that can also be an impetus to the community that we are here. I know it's a very united community, especially the Gambian community. It's really united. And that I like about the people here, the founders and the coordinators, people like Eddie, Abdullah, and the rest. You must be acknowledged and you must be recommended for that.
Yes.
And yes. What's your take, Abdullah, on that before Fatu comes?
Just need to check my phone. Okay.
I'm back.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good.
So Fatu, I was just summing up something before you went, and that was like breaking that myth, that barrier of I'm new here. These are people that are new here. The this and the IAMS, and like I put in the chat here, trying to create a community participation in finding a solution through socio-cultural interaction, because socio-cultural interaction also helps us in understanding how we feel about each other, what kind of life are we living, how dangerous or how good or how negative, how positive, the kind of impact it has in our lives. And also Abdullah was going to give you also another summary of what Hull does. Mr. Jang, you have the floor. Excuse me, I talk too much anyway.
No, but it's all useful talk. Right. Fatu, I think Abdullah just told you most of what we do at Hull. He's giving you the meaning of Hull, what we do. I came the last, I think, in the group, but the people that suggested the group and how they shortlisted members was something I was really, impressed with. Because what they did in the first instance was they took people with different skill set to bring them together. Pamodu, like is in the media industry, and he's quite a good member because he knows a lot about the media. He helps people in communicating with each other. You have Idi, who's into education. Ja, he knows a lot about social stuff, how to bring people together in terms of fundraising and stuff. Myself, I'm into the security industry, but also a finance guy. So we all have our different skill sets, which we see as strength. in the group itself. So when we put our heads together, I can see a lot of things happening.
Then
At the
can I
moment, go.
Can I ask, why didn't you guys consider healthcare in the first place?
We did consider healthcare. It was actually one of the things that was most important to us, because I think we've got somebody who's into healthcare, isn't it? The AFTAP is into the, I think, medical. Yeah. But Abdullah was talking about somebody into nursing or something. Maybe it was you. I don't know.
But yeah. I think, Mr. James, probably I could come in there.
Yeah, go on.
I think, Father, I think that was the main thing about Hall was actually the promotion of well-being and actually before, if you're not creative side of health, but the preventive aspect of health. So that was mainly the concept behind Hall. So we're going into the preventive act, so that which will include well-being as well. So it will, if that helps.
Yeah. So yeah, it's got different arms. You know, Hall's got the entrepreneurship. We've got what was it again? We've got investment, agriculture. So how do we get our funding? Abdullah suggested a few ideas together with Edie, who are very vast in this community stuff and fundraising. So we've talked about a few things before the COVID, and we had to stop, but we were going to do a fundraising of trying to get money together to make it function, because we can't run without money, really. But yeah, basically that's what Hall is all about. I would say Hall came at a good time, because in this COVID, everything that Hall stands for is what we need to fight against this COVID. The loneliness, you know, staying healthy, eating well, and that's what we advocate in Hall actually. So I think you will understand what Hall is all about by listening to what Abdullah said, what Pamuru said, and it will have contributed to. The solutions that, going back to our meeting, I've come up with 4 possible solutions, you know, by the little research I've done. I can remember Abdullah spoke to me once about volunteering to help people, because I am driving like himself, and others that don't drive would be having a big problem to go shopping or go everywhere that they need to be. So Abdullah suggested a service, a voluntary service, to find out from people who will need help and where they live, give the addresses to all the people who will volunteer to help, which was a good solution to this problem of COVID. I think that's one of the main solutions that I come up with. Also, I think Edie mentioned us coming together, the community coming together to be talking about things openly. It was you or Edie. Like Mariama just confessed to us how what distracts people from coming forward with their problems, really. You know, being confidential. You know what our community is like. We come up with something, and everybody will be looking at you. It's also always a sign of weakness, which is not. You know, being human, you're bound to get problems. You know, none of us is immune to it. So yeah, that's another thing, and I think there's a lot of online support as well. I know you did say that's not very effective in the way. Well, not effective, but
it is effective, but it's like it depends on the individual. Not
that's
many
right.
people like to read stuff from online.
Yeah, but if you break it down, like you said, that's a good idea. Breaking it down or interpreting it, what it means.
Literacy levels as well.
That's right. Yeah, on the layman's point of view, which is a good idea. So yeah, those are the few things I think would be a contribution to the solutions we will come up with.
Yeah, just to add on few solutions to some of the issues we've raised earlier, because I know this as we've indicated at the initial stage, this conversation is sponsored by Nottingham Equal. They set it up, and then so obviously whatever we've stated here, and we've said a lot, will have an impact because it will get far. So I would, as part of our solution, I think the central government too has a role in here. There is a lot of psychological effect for everybody, but then it is particularly worse for people who are not regularized, for example, in this country. So I think I'll be bold enough to call for a national amnesty for people who are not regularized in this country and they live within our communities, for the government to really look into their cases at this point in time, that it is twice as hard for them. They should not be dehumanized. They have to live on food bank. They should be, they should have that opportunity really to access the universal help that everybody else enjoys in this country. So that is one solution I think I'm putting forward. And also with regards to education and children, I think the community or individuals perhaps needs to be sensitized that they have to do a bit more at home, those who can really to support the education of their children. Because what they're doing at school is great, but it has to be complemented at home. So the community, as a community, perhaps with the situation with COVID, it's very, very difficult to have any communal activity at this point in time. But I think going forward, when the situation changes, I think the community also needs to take a stance in terms of putting up communal lessons for our children and supporting them in speeding up their catch up, because they are behind. Because most of the children who are behind are those from underprivileged backgrounds. And sadly for us, most of that is where we belong. That is where our children are emerging from. They're already behind even before they start school, because they all EAL children, they learn English as an additional language. That does not signal any inability at all in school. I can state that categorically, but it means for some children, it is a handicapping situation. It creates a disadvantage for them. So having that time off school and then not having the adequate support at home is quite twice as hard for them. And then obviously they've got a curriculum to cover, even though schools are doing their best within the conditions that prevail, because obviously some schools they've kept bubbles, but the bubbles needs to be sought when there is a positive case or 2 positive cases in bubbles. And then there's so many other things happening in schools. So the online lessons, schools are doing great with it. Teachers are working twice as hard to provide online content and then teach their normal classrooms as well. But then it is not as the same. In some homes, it is good because they're really very, very small nuclear households where you've got space, you can have the quietness. But if you got 3, 4 children in a 2 or 3 bedroom house, it is not as the same. If a child doesn't go to school, you can still provide that laptop or whatever access to that child, but the concentration level, because of the environment that exists at home, will not enable that, because it isn't ideal. So these are some of the issues, and I think it is hard, but I think the local council needs to look at communities like ourselves and probably help us with centers where we'll have to bring our children in. Perhaps we can look within ourselves for professionals who are eligible, who are qualified enough. And perhaps that is a challenge for the graduates, for the many graduates we have within our community. People need to step up and take up roles like that, really to support our children's education. Because we've all gone through the same school system, even though it is perhaps done somewhere around the world, but the concepts that are learned are the same. We can all teach our children at home. So when we group them together, we can all do something. But I think we need centers. We need support for those centers, because centers are quite expensive. And the local council, I suppose, could help look at communities like ourselves and say, you know what, your children academically, even though the government has pumped in £1 billion for the catch-up schemes in schools, for the tutoring scheme, they've got a partnership with tutors who are coming into schools to support some children. But still now, we need some additional support at home as parents to help. And I think schools also could help parents as well.
I just wanted to provoke something, Edie, here, and that's I think that goes alongside the institutional setup here, the political spectrum that we have, that we operate within here, and that is challenging the authorities to at least shift their way of thinking, their perception towards the BAME community, and get more involvement and more participatory actions with the people within the community. Like you have, for instance, you come to the Gambian community, you have very prominent people that almost every household within the Gambian community here would be familiar with. So having those kind of politicians who would come to us, canvass for votes when it is time for election. And then when elections have gone, they are nowhere to be found until another election period. The councillors, the MPs, I know this, and I always say it because I think she's doing a very good job. Nadia, the Nottingham East MP, she's really great. She does a very, very, very good job in interacting with people. But notwithstanding that fact, I also think it is good for us to challenge the authorities that are within us here, to involve us, to have regular consultation with us within the communities. I mean, the community champions have consultation with them with the view to knowing what is exactly happening within the community, and then they can take it forward to council meetings, to the parliament and stuff like that. Otherwise, it's just like having somebody who is not within us, or who is not part of us, or is not from us, to go and represent us in his or her own way of thinking. Are you getting my point? This is a general one I'm putting across. I think if anybody has something to say, but basically, maybe you can start.
Yes, I agree with you entirely on the side of the politician, but perhaps I would also challenge members of our community really to start up and be counted as well, because it's up to us to take up roles within our own communities for our own future, the future of our own children. We really need to, we should be out there for any help to come and find us in there. And I think that is key. But like you said, I think we are in a good place. This is a good starting point to get that voice heard at the right places, because I'm sure Nothing Equal will make sure they'll go through this video. This video you're recording now is for them, and they represent the local council. And I'm sure you will get far. And I think our voices will be heard. And conversations of this nature are really good to start that. But I think politicians, like you said, we have to hold them accountable. The politicians all over the world will come when it's time for voting, but then you will not necessarily see them when it isn't time for conversing for votes. But as a community, we have to strengthen our community associations. Like we mentioned here, when we strengthen our community associations, we have that communal spirit within ourselves, then we become a force to be reckoned with. And I think that for us is what we really need to put some more energy in. We're doing great as a community. We've got so many selfless people who are putting themselves up, and then, well, great, we probably need some new additions in that fold to make sure we further strengthen our community associations. And I think Yam mentioned the communal spirit we have. For example, if somebody experiences loss, the whole community comes together. That is part of our social upbringing as well, but that is something as part of our culture we cherish. And we are trying to really work in hard. We've been hampered by COVID to really set up a formal support group, a well-being group for the community, for example, for bereavement. We've started working on that project as well, but we need a wider reach. But I think the politicians will come, will be a force for them to reckon with, but then we have to start from within ourselves. Like you said, so many people, like you pointed a finger at yourself, but I think you're doing a great job, even though you still feel like you're not, and you could have done more or get involved a lot more, but you are still doing a great job. And I think you've offered the community an opportunity for radio programs and things like that. These are things that we need to take up. And sadly, we're not able to do that. But yeah, you are there to support us, to make our voice heard. And I think those are the platforms that politicians will listen to, and they will get us. And I think we need to explore those avenues that people like you within our community are creating. We don't know, there's so much potential in you as an editor and as a broadcaster, as a media person. We're not using you enough in our community. These are the issues we have, and we need to change them.
Like we say in French, merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Basically, what we could be doing is like making, doing projects like Edie's been talking about, bringing out project proposals, talking about them, setting out what we need, goals, how are we going to achieve them, how are we going to implement these goals, and where we're going to get these informations from. Spreading that information to people in the grass level. We need to communicate to the people that, look, this is what we need to get help. We know this is an issue here. We need to recognize there is an issue first, and then we get to that level to say, listen, this is what we have, and this is what we need. So we could be part of the solution of all this. It's like when you say in nursing, care planning, you care plan things and identify the needs of this individual. Yeah, when you get that need of that individual, then you go to a state where you can implement that thing. How would you implement? Where are you going to get all these informations to implement this thing? And you set a goal. That goal needs to be evaluated in future. That's where in that goal, that's where you get those support in how we're going to, and those support networks out there also need an evaluation. They need a result for them to continue. Am I not right?
Yeah.
So that result is what we need to work towards. It's okay to say, oh, we are a group, we are out here, they give us support, but we didn't implement it anywhere, and it's not going to go any further than that. So if you get what I mean.
That's participatory. That's participatory. That's when you participate in something, you would want to look forward to having the result. And the result is based on the evaluation. After you have finished the participation, you evaluate yourself. We have achieved this. We fell short in this area.
And review what we have to review.
Yeah.
In the past, from my experience with Engage, this, all this kind, for example, in the where we live, we have ward councillors, all these MPs, and everybody. We all the names of the politicians, at the end of the day, they all won the votes when the election time. They keep a distance. When incident happen, they come forward, When disaster happen in the community, they try to come forward, But this is the other thing. But as a community, like I say, all these politicians, the councillors, they have like a surgery in their work areas where by weekly basis, people can meet them, and over them. So they know some of them are not to, they know how to get, because it's a part of their mandatory job signed for, they have to accessible to community on a weekly basis in the local libraries, whereby people can meet them in there, everybody will find out your councillor within your area has a surgery in your local area. They target the library areas, community buildings. But due to this COVID, it's a different thing. They cannot meet face to face. All you got to do, like, arrange a meeting with them Zoom or one-to-one, they call you and things like that, People have the specific cases, in an area whereby people have to, they flag that up, they need to talk to them, get an appointment. But it's their job. But I think for us, it's down to us as a community to come in a collective, approach and productive, issues that we have to address and pass through them, channel it through them in a particular area. For example, let's say Snenton. That's where the Gambian community is based, and that's where the area. So it's our duty also to know who are the councillors over there, who are the areas who have issues around the area, and things like that, how to address it to go to a higher level. Because there's a chain of everything, Even as of now, you can say the head of the council is from the area. It's one of the MP councillors down there. David Miliband, for example, I think you might know this and all this, So he's the head of the council now. He's the, this kind of thing. But to have an agenda, we should have an agenda, table up and everything, address those issues, and then from there. Plan A, if they can do it, plan B is the community. You know what I mean? Some issues are, certain things at government level, certain things at authorities, they have to really tackle the issues. When it comes to other supports like financing and other things, they can also direct you or do limitation today when it comes to the community thing. But when it comes to like, in case of like financing some of the activities, and after we have to be more creative, create projects, create things, within our own community, our own framework, the welfare situation of our country and how to, especially, and then it's far still there. But another thing we have done is like I said, we bring it all together. I think it's new to him today. And I think it looks like he might buy the idea and in a form of trying to cater and understand it. If you don't even participate fully, but something, I'm sure there are skills you might need from her, especially those kind of area. You know what I mean? So that, Fatu, are you with me? Yeah, okay. Like I just mentioned, after you work out from your desk, but I'm saying to you, as a community, we should do like collectively look at issues in the community affect us. One thing, and either table it, approach it, table it up, how to approach the local authorities, like our local politician in the area, whereby, for example, every area has a councillors, we have their soldiers, and they're not even to have, they're online, they all go email, they all contact them, and everybody. For me, I don't hesitate to contact anybody if I need to talk to you. And they have meetings and everything. So they have like regulators. So we have to identify as a community what we need as in our community, what do we need to address and what do you need to, find a solution. Plan A, if it's authority level, some incident that we need to tackle, we put there are other ways of tackling it, and things like that. For example, the city council is down there, but if you come as a team, they know we are part of it. We all have, like Eddie mentioned here, we all paying tax, everybody's in the community. We have to look at, for example, a Tobaski one time, the Eid, that, the mosque is our property, mashallah, alhamdulillah, our population, our community is growing now. So we'll kind of fit, we can do Friday prayer, another day. But when we bring the family for prayers, Eid, thereby families and kids and everything, we outnumber the place. You know what I mean? So we need to find a different place and everything. So last time they said to me, I had to pull and find them to find permission. We have to pray outside in the road, block the road. But we can issue. In the end, we have to push on different department, everything. But in the end, they know we need it for a particular time. We don't have to. So these are the kind of things, we need. The authorities can back us. The local community, we use them for community interest. That's all about IRCD. But it's a part of the engagement. So that's my thing. What I was saying about also, the coming also to form these things, this organization like Hall. I think Fatu, you know much about this overview of the Hall, and which I think there's certain aspect is in line. Definitely we need a nurse on board. And there's like I said earlier, Power mentioned, there's a guy, we have team leaders of every area. Not necessarily an expert on this area, but those team leaders, we're building experts. For example, it is an education area, he knows about education, but now the guy who's heading who's heading the medical area, health expert, he also knows a medical professional. He's just like a salesperson. He sells medicines and everything. He knows the pharmacies and everything. But we need people like Fatu to educate and team and advise us technically on the ground. And what are people like midwives and everything to develop the health service, doctors and things like that. Because these are the needs we have an agenda, we build a team. So the boundary is open, you know what I mean? And those are kind of the health. Partly diabetes was another thing to tackle, how to help the people in Gambia, help those kind of things. Those long term, educate people and influence, these are kind of things, health to life, health and well-being, these are issues around people. So mental health, so obesity is one of the things we're looking at, especially obesity and isolation, because they're all linked.
Yeah, like I say, going back into my point, summary-wise, training is very important. In our society, we need to train people. We need to educate people how to do, like, where to get information, how to, cut the chain, where informations can be disseminated, access and all that. It's important. Support is out there. It will be out there as well. But how we tap into those supports, those are the important things to cope to harvest, all these issues that we've been talking about. It will help a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So for you, it's training, access, dissemination of information, sort of.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Fatu.
Thank you. Sorry, this is going to fall. Going to. Thank you.
Your points are great, and they are really well noted. And I'm sure Eddie is going to.
Okay. Thank you very much. I will believe it.
Before Fatu goes, Fatu, just this Bill, like the whole thing, is something you're looking to be participating?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. Yeah. Having said that, I've got a busy schedule, but when it suits me, I'll come in.
That's good.
But even if you're going to join the meeting now, if you have attending areas at which your area, like the isolation and obesity thing, we will link a mental health thing. I think some of them might invite you.
We'll get her involved. Yes. When she gets involved, she'll be very, 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 very involved. Don't worry. Once you get involved,
that's fine. I'm open to that invitation. I am really looking forward to it.
We need to know.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pamela, just before Fatu leaves, I think our next conversation, sorry, I'm struggling to say the word, will be for the under 30s. So this is the first of two.
Yes, mine would be the same thing. Volunteering putting ourselves out there and say, this is what we're able to help with. The networking bit, I also mentioned that in my solutions. Online support, look for things online. I know there's a lot of information online to help with this COVID or how to deal with it, really. Fatu mentioned training. That was my final point, to be talking to each other and explain to each other whatever means. So yeah, basically those are my ones.
Volunteering, networking, on the online support.
Yeah, and then training.
And training, yeah. Fatu mentioned training as well. So
yeah,
I'm just getting the keywords here.
That's right. Yeah.
So it is good to elaborate on that because Fatu mentioned training, access, dissemination of information. You mentioned volunteering, networking, and online support.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because so many people are not used to this online revolution. So giving them that expertise in online stuff
would help. Yeah.
Help a lot. Would break that gap of that barrier of non-communication. I will go to Abdullah again. Abdullah Jah.
I mean, Abdullah is my confused.
No. I'm not confused. This other Abdullah is Bugalega Abdullah. So I know.
Mr. Val.
And come back,
Yeah.
So Mr. Jacobon.
Listen, okay, the thing is now, I think one of the things you mentioned about online training, which is also part of also to push our people to engage in social media as well and train our social media. Something also we need to also get people to, all this Zoom, people come to think about it after COVID. That's the good thing about it, what I mean? And also something, the COVID has also brought some good things in the community as well, like technology-wise, people don't have to travel far distance, but you can talk about face-to-face and this virtual thing. Virtual training, a lot of training are doing online, and it's working well. People are getting certificated online and everything online. And I think even after COVID, it's going to carry on. This meetings and Zoom thing is going to carry on. Yeah, it's going to carry on. A lot of people will use that to save costs. As a business, we always trying to think about how best you save costs, like travel A to B, to meetings, conferences, international conference. Because I was actually attending a conference last week in Ghana. This was about 400 participants, World Conference about Africa development. So if you think about those things, people were there, people are messaging everything. And I think that was a very, amazing 400 people online all over the world. So I think this, despite even without COVID, nobody was able to come, traveling, accommodation, hotel, and everything, staying and go for these conferences, So that's brilliant. That's my opinion. Training and improve the social media and get people out, informed.
So yours is training as well, social media involvement and participation, is it?
And ICT training, particularly ICT, because the ICT will let them to be access to this technology. For people suffer from IT and provision of this and getting them resources. If you can help them also to get resources, like the sponsor, that will be good as well.
ICT training for resources, yeah?
Yeah, ICT training resources to the community. Because when Mr. X might be in the house, they don't have a laptop, things like tablets, and these are problems, access to resources. ICT training, that's it.
Okay, all right, okay. Edie, how about you?
I think for me, we've exhausted the list. We've done a great job as a team, and I think there's several. We've got a long list of possible solutions, and I'm sure they will be very, very beneficial, not just for our community, but they're very much transferable across several communities.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think we have really, it has been a very, very fruitful discussion and really very, very orderly discussion as well. Thank you very much for the moderation. Yes, and everybody has contributed immensely to the discussion on the floor today. And thank you very much to every one of you on behalf
thank you guys for. Yeah, it was a good idea to meet.
So you want to say another thank you to Nottingham Equals for providing us this opportunity.
Definitely, we're really grateful to Nottingham Equal, and this is something we have interacted with them before on many other occasions, and then this is one of such occasions that they're facilitating this for our community, and it is something that we appreciate, and I think it is a partnership we hope will carry on into the future.
Yes, just before I will call it all over, I think also at Mojatu, we also have a very good partnership with Nottingham Equals, and our work with them is cordial. It's just great. I think they are doing a very good thing within the community, and I think Abdullah Jah also would attest to that. And like we have different organizations within the Gambian community that they can involve us in, like for example the whole organization, the local Gambian community organization that is there. These are all organizations that they can involve themselves to get more participatory reaction from people. Am I right, Eddie and the guys?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
agree.
Yeah.
The
So,
parents too,
I agree. Yes.
they're supporting
Yeah.
Gambia. Anyway, at the minute we get small funding that comes to us.
yeah.
We give part of the cleaner. For instance, I just said the funding they're giving us, that's what we're paying the cleaner now for the masjid. So it's like small funding, but it's helpful because a lot of work, you know what I mean? So
Every
it's really,
little thing helps.
every little bit helps.